Today, I am explaining the movie, Arcadian, explaining every scene as it happens. Watch till the end, and please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this. A man picked up a few things he needed from an empty house. He strapped up his bag and ran home. When he arrived, his 2 babies were in a cot, and one was already crying. 15 years later, one of the boys, Thomas, ran home while their father and his brother, Joseph, waited for him. Joseph went inside to start locking up. When Thomas finally showed up, their father complained about his lateness, and Thomas apologized. After locking the windows and doors with wooden reinforcement, they lit candles and lanterns and sat down to eat. Their father warned Thomas that if he was late again, he wouldn't be allowed to go past the boundaries. Joseph asked why Thomas was always at Mr. Rose's farm, to which Thomas replied it was because he wasn't there. The boys then started fighting over the table, but their father stopped them and made them say, "Are we not men?" while stamping their knives on the table. After dinner, Joseph replayed the Tal vs. Koblenz 1961 chess game, and Thomas joined him. Their dogs started scratching at the floor. Thomas and their father ran towards the door on the first floor. When Thomas placed a lantern beside the door, they started hearing heavy banging. Thomas and his father held the door shut until the banging stopped. When they returned to the second floor, Thomas asked why Joseph didn't help them with the door. Joseph replied that he was counting the bangs, 10 seconds the first time, 20 seconds the second time, and just 1 second the last time. He thought the first bang was a test, the second was an attempt to break the door, and the last was just out of frustration. The next morning, they found deep scratches on the door, so they went to the woods to get tree roots to replace the door frames. Thomas wanted to finish quickly so he could go to the Rose farm. His father told him to cut the wood first, then he could go. When they got back home, Joseph was drawing in his notebook. Their father asked to see what he was working on, but Joseph said he hadn't gotten it to start yet. He hoped it would help around the house if it could actually start. Their father asked if that was why Joseph built the vehicle, and Joseph said he didn't want to hide forever and was tired of being scared. Their father switched the relay on the vehicle, and it started. He then taught Joseph how to drive it, with Thomas also in the vehicle. After Joseph learned to drive, Thomas was about to run off to the farm, but their father told him to follow Joseph to the riverside to salvage while he stayed back to fix the door. On their way, Thomas told Joseph that he almost crashed the vehicle, which is why their father sent him to take care of Joseph and ruined his plans. Joseph told him to go wherever he wanted. Thomas asked Joseph to drop him off and said they would meet at the same spot before sunset, then he ran to the Rose farm. When Thomas arrived at the farm, he greeted Mr. and Mrs. Rose and apologized for being late. They told him to get some water before continuing his work. Their daughter mentioned that the tap was broken and asked why he was at the farm. Thomas explained that he was there to finish his work from the previous day, but she told him her father had already completed it. She then said there was something else her father wanted him to help with, and asked him to follow her. Joseph tied a rope from the vehicle around his waist and went down to the river. He checked inside a house he entered, and when he pulled out a box, bugs flew out and covered him as he tried to shake them off. The girl took him to a tree and told him that was how far she could play when she was younger. Her parents would tie a rope to the tree and around her waist so she could stay within that area. They played under the tree for a while, and as it was getting late, she hugged him for 10 seconds and let him go. He promised to come back the next day. Thomas ran toward the spot where he was supposed to meet Joseph but slipped and fell into a cave while running. When Joseph arrived at the meeting spot and Thomas didn't show up, he waited for a while. As it got late and Thomas still didn't appear, Joseph drove back to the house. Their father was already worried and pacing in front of the house. When Joseph got home, their father asked about Thomas. Joseph told him he thought Thomas was already home because he went to the Rose farm and didn't find him where they agreed to meet. Their father told Joseph to secure the house and said he would be back with Thomas in the morning. He took a knife and went with their dog. Joseph woke up in the cave and used his shocker device to light up the area and see what was around him. He accidentally stepped on a scary creature and fell in fear. He took out the knife from his bag for defense but just screamed in terror when the creature came closer. This made his father come to him, and he stabbed the creature when it emerged from the cave. He called out to Thomas, who then entered the cave as well. They blocked the entrance, and Joseph explained what had happened. Their father told him they would stay in the cave until morning. Joseph had his dinner and sat in front of the door, leaving the peephole open. After writing in his book, he closed it and slept in a chair near the fireplace, facing the door. One of the creatures came to the door and stretched its hand through the peephole. When its hand couldn't reach Joseph, it extended its fingers until they were close to his face. It then unlocked the door through the peephole and entered the house quietly. When it was close to Joseph, he trapped the creature in a cage. Thomas and their father heard noises outside the cave. Their father lit a spark stick and threw it outside, causing the creatures to start emerging from underneath them. They tried to get out of the cave, but the creatures blocked their way. Their father lit an explosive and placed it among the creatures. In the morning, Joseph took out the vehicle to find them. He met their dog on the way, which led him to Thomas, who was trying to lift their unconscious father. Thomas told Joseph that he had blown up his hand while fighting the creatures and had been unconscious since then. They carefully carried their father into the vehicle, and then into his room when they got home. Thomas noticed the creature Joseph had caught, and said he had used himself as bait to catch it. He explained that it had taken them only 8 minutes to break in, which was the shortest time they had ever spent. However, only one creature was caught, as 2 had come to the house. Thomas mentioned that he had killed many creatures the previous night, and suggested that Joseph could kill the one he had caught. Joseph agreed, but when Thomas was ready to attack, Joseph said he was just joking. Thomas didn't listen and forcefully opened the cage. The creature emerged, and Thomas ran back. Their dog tried to attack it, but the creature was about to pounce on the dog when Joseph pierced its back with a long stick. Thomas then cut off the creature's head with an axe. Joseph lamented that he wanted to study the creature, so he took the body and dissected it on a table in a room where he had hung up diagrams of the creatures and bugs he had drawn. Thomas suggested they take their father to the Rose farm for better medicine. Joseph replied that they wouldn't help them, but Thomas was persistent. So, they put their father in the vehicle and took him to the farm. When they got close to the gate, one of the workers came to close it. The family stood behind the gate. Thomas explained what happened and begged for medication for their dad or if they could stay with them until he got better. Mrs. Rose said they couldn't take in any injured person, but Thomas and Joseph could stay so there would be enough supplies for them. Their daughter, Charlotte, tried to protest, saying they had enough room to take them in, but her mother dismissed her. Joseph went back to the vehicle, and Thomas followed him. Joseph told Thomas to stay with them since that was what he always wanted. He also said that Thomas never took responsibility for his actions, and now their dad was about to die because of him. Thomas pinned Joseph to the ground and strangled him, but after a while, he let him go. Joseph then drove off immediately. Charlotte took Thomas to her room. He looked at himself in the mirror and started touching everything he could find. Charlotte asked if he was nervous, and he told her that he always felt happy when he was with her. She leaned in to kiss him. Just then, her father came into the room and told her to come with him. When Joseph got home, he noticed drag marks in front of their house, as if something had been pulled out. He dragged their father into his room and then went to check his study. He couldn't find the dismembered body of the creature. Later that night, Joseph went to the kitchen and was looking through the medication cabinet when Charlotte came in and asked what he was doing. Joseph told Charlotte that he couldn't stay with them and begged her for the medicine, as his father's life depended on it. Charlotte gave him the medication, and he promised to return the next day. One of the workers overheard Joseph asking for the medicine. As Thomas was running off with it, the worker held a gun on him and accused him of stealing. Meanwhile, Joseph started locking up the house but fell into a small hole under the carpet. The worker took Thomas to their quarters, tied him up, and was about to shoot him for trying to take their place when something pulled him into the ground. The others ran away in fear. Mr. Rose heard the commotion and was about to check when one of the creatures attacked him in his room and killed him. Mrs. Rose tried to get to Charlotte but was also attacked and killed by the creature. The creatures emerged from underneath the workers' quarters, killing some workers while the others fled. Charlotte found her mother dead with the creature. When another creature was about to kill Thomas, Charlotte shot it from behind. Thomas grabbed the medicine, and they both ran out. The main building was on fire, and Thomas wanted to help the parents, but Charlotte told him they were already gone. Joseph covered the hole in the ground with a chair and heard sounds by the door. He approached with a hammer. Thomas put his hand through the peephole, and Joseph opened the door for him. Thomas and Charlotte came in, and Joseph asked if they were okay. Thomas tried to apologize for what he had done, but he couldn't find the words. Joseph told him that he couldn't handle it alone. Thomas handed him the medicine, and they both ran to their father. Joseph explained that the creatures had dug underneath the building and would break in at any moment. He asked what they should do, and their father said they would fight. Joseph ran outside to his study room, with Thomas and Charlotte following him. He packed kegs of fuel into a wheelbarrow along with other supplies. Joseph told Thomas to trust him and help move the freezer to the main house while Charlotte pushed the wheelbarrow. When they reached the main house, they placed the freezer in a separate room. Joseph said he needed 10 minutes to execute his plan before the creatures started coming in, so Thomas and Charlotte went to hold them off. Joseph poured fuel on the floor, set up a battery, and lit a cigarette close to it. As the creatures began to enter, Charlotte shot them while Thomas stabbed those he could. Their father also came out, wielding a baton and hitting any creature that approached. Joseph called them to get into the freezer, but their father told them to go and shut the door behind him. Joseph tried to call him back, but he didn't respond. Thomas urged their father to join them in the freezer. The room filled with fuel caught fire as many creatures were inside, and the flames shook the freezer as well. The freezer shook for a while and then stopped. They broke out of the freezer and called out to their dad, but there was no response. One of the creatures stretched its arm toward them, so they ran out of the house. They jumped into the vehicle, and Thomas drove them away. A creature covered in fire chased after them, but Charlotte shot it and then hit it with the gun until it fell. In the morning, they buried their parents, said their farewells, and consoled each other. Joseph suggested that they check the 6 farms in the valley to see if anyone survived the night. They got into the vehicle, and their dog followed behind as they drove off. Please like, share, and subscribe.